Here comes a new challenger!
Hello there everyone, and welcome to my top 10 most wanted characters for KOF15. Let's just jump right into it, starting with number 10 being Kunsanagi. And well, Kusanagi is kind of an interesting choice, maybe for a lot of people, because Kusanagi for me was just sort of wasted potential. As a character, he's essentially just Kyo again. As a matter of fact, in the game that he appears in, there are, well, 4 of them, 5 if you want to count Shingo. When it comes to Kusanagi, he just isn't, well, cool. I mean, his design is cool, but the artwork doesn't really match the actual gameplay whatsoever. But I mean, hey, whatever. I mean, it's just sort of disappointing to me because Kusanagi could have easily been a Akuma-like or an evil Ryu, to be more exact. Essentially a more violent version of the main protagonist. Akuma sure is, violent, but not to the same extent as evil Ryu. And I feel like evil Ryu is just that better of a comparison to Kusanagi as, Ryu is to Kyo. Not in personality, but, gameplay wise. And I always felt like Kusanagi had potential, but it was just wasted. But hopefully, now that every character was brought back thanks to the death of Verse, maybe, just maybe, I gotta say a lot of times because I'm hoping Kusanagi may return and that Kusanagi may become something more than what he was originally. That is my main hope. I've been memeing Kyo 1 and 2, to be in the game alongside Kusanagi, but if any of them are going to get in, I really want it to be Kusanagi because I feel like that one has the most potential to become something great. And speaking of Kyo clones, let's talk about Shingo. Now Shingo, he's not like Dan in any way, shape, or form. When it comes to Shingo, he's just a guy who looks up to Kyo and essentially kind of fights like him but has his own moves. When I say he's not like Dan, it's not like he's just like a Ryo clone or anything like that. That's just a goofball. Dan can actually fight, but his fighting style sucks. When it comes to Shingo, his fighting style could work, but the problem is he doesn't have the Kusanagi flames. He just doesn't have that clan's power, but he wants to make his own flames and his own dreams come true. And well, he feels that becoming like his idol Kyo, he could do just that. Hey, I admire Shingo, and the fact that he hasn't been in every game, missing out on a few, is so upsetting because he's just a fun personality, a fun character to be around. He's even helped save, some of these characters from certain doom. Shingo's a great guy, and I love him. He may not be the best fighter of all time, but he's definitely one worth keeping around. So I hope that he returns for KOF15. That's just my hope. Next up, we have Nameless. Now, when it comes to Nameless, it's kind of interesting. I feel like Nameless as a character was really just meant to replace a certain guy, but I don't remember who. Maybe I'll find out and talk about them in the next video, maybe, who knows. But when it comes to it, Nameless is a cool looking character, just design wise. I don't even really care for his lore, that he's like another Kyo clone or anything like that. I don't really care about that. I just like Nameless purely off of his design. And I mean, come on, you can't take that away from me. Oh, I'm sad, what about the lore? I don't care about the lore when it comes to Nameless. I just really care that he has a really sick design. And for me, that's all that I need to have a character in my opinion. Because when you have a character that looks that cool, why not include him? But hey, that's just my opinion. I know that Nameless was only basically in 2002 and the mobile game, but hopefully he can be included in KOF15. I feel he has a high chance, but hey, that's just me, especially with 2002 being re-released, and I believe Nameless wasn't even really playable until those re-releases. That'd be really sick to include him this time around. He shouldn't really be a one-shot wonder, just to put it like that. Now for these next two entries, I'm gonna put them side by side, being Theo and Marco from Metal Slug. I love Metal Slug. I have a whole history with Metal Slug. Metal Slug was the series I knew before any other SNK series. I just love Metal Slug so much. I may suck at it, I may die a lot of it, and I may lose a bunch of quarters, or at least at the time it was quarters. You know, I still love Metal Slug. And I wanted to see some representation for Metal Slug in KOF for such a long time, but no. I even thought they would do it in 14 as DLC at least, but no. And I didn't end up playing 14, but I'll definitely be playing 15. But that's not the point right now. The point is that I've wanted to see one of these characters show up at all, and it's a shame that they haven't. I mean, Theo and Marco have appeared in other fighting games by SNK, and so has other Metal Slug characters such as Mars People, but never in an actual KOF game, the big game, the game everyone's gonna pay attention to. Even for the Dream Match games, they never showed up. It's so upsetting. They've always made cameos too, you know, but we just never seem to get that love. But hey, now that we know an actual Metal Slug stage is happening, who knows? They might actually have their chance this time around, and that's my main hope. So I pray that Marco gets in. I pray that Theo gets in. Hey, you know what? I wouldn't mind if all four of them, you know, the main four, get in, being Terma and, well, Eri. I really love those four guys, and I'm also excited for that new RPG that's coming out for Metal Slug. But enough about Metal Slug, let's move on, shall we? So up next we have Duck King, and similar to Nameless, I suck with him. I probably will never play him. I don't know anything about him, but he just looks cool. Duck King for me is just one of the most expressive characters in all the fighting games. I mean, by his idle animations, just the way he moves, he'd be dancing, he'd be breaking down every moment of the day, alongside his little bird friend whose name I always forget. Whoops. But hey, well, she sticks around with Duck King too, and Duck King has been in a KOF game before, that being, I believe, KOF11, when he was part of Team Fatal Fury. Now, you may be wondering, what? He was part of Team Fatal Fury? I thought that was only Joe and Andy. Well, in this one instance, it was actually Terry, Duck King, and Kim Kwapon, who I also assume will show up in this game as well. They were a Fatal Fury team at one point, and Duck King is just wonderful in that game also. The fact that the team itself breaks up because Duck King and Kim had a drunk dispute is hilarious to me, and I just love it all the same. When it comes to it, Duck King has always been a lovable character in my eyes, and is a character I hope makes a grand comeback in KOF15. I really just want to see how he translates to 3D primarily. His animations, his style, just everything about him. I'd even love a stage based on the guy, and a remix of his theme, because that theme is amazing. Now, Rugal is an interesting guy. He's mysterious, he's villainous, most importantly, he's dead. Well, was dead actually, now come to think about it. As I mentioned, with the death of Verse, that means that characters that were once dead are possibly brought back to life. And Rugal is definitely the one that everyone's looking for. Rugal's such an amazing villain. I mean, the reason why he runs a tournament, I mean, makes sense, but at the same time it's kind of lame. But he was the original villain of the KOF series, and was he a really good one? I love Rugal, and I love the fact that his moveset was specifically made to be cheap. Everything about Rugal is so cool. His design, his demeanor, the way he fights, his genocide kata, or everything about him is just sick. I really do love the guy. He even has Omega Rugal, which is essentially just his boss version, because, you know, when it comes to KOF, they usually try to have like a base version and a boss version for some of the boss characters, even though even the base versions based on the boss characters tend to not be balanced all the time. But still, Rugal's fun nonetheless, and I can totally see him even being part of a team with Vice and Mature, his secretaries. Now, I know some people may say, oh no, but Rugal will probably come back, you know, be the villain again, be by himself, the boss, whatever. But based on Orochi's return and how he was tired when coming back to life, And seeing that he didn't even have Chris with him this time around, it was just Orochi, like the actual Orochi, no Chris. I wouldn't be surprised if Rugal would run the next KOF tournament purely because he's out of strength, he's out of breath, and needs to get back into the fight. And well, a tournament would definitely be the best way to do that, but this time avoiding death with the help of Vice Mature. Though they're definitely going to use Rugal for their own benefit as well, so I could definitely see them being part of a team together. It'd be interesting and be cool. I really hope Rugal makes a return. I mean, he has to, right? I mean, why else would you introduce Verse? But hey, that's just me. Now for the number 3 spot, I am going to be breaking a rule, being I said character, but this one is a whole team. That being the All-American Sports Team. Okay, come on, give me a break. I love Brian, I love Lucky, and I love Heavy D. They have not made an appearance in quite a long time, but for whatever reason, I suck with them. I never really play them, but the idea of just these guys playing sports, like these just sports players teaming up and trying to fight against all odds, is so unbelievably funny to me. I love this team, and I really, really hope they make a grand return in KOF15. I mean, like, wouldn't you want them back? Hey, well, that's just me, you know. Lucky to me is just sort of like Sean, but what if Sean was a competent fighter, you know? Or, you know, when it comes to Brian, he's just a big, you know, football guy. But hey, when he charges at you, he ain't just charging, he's just straight up flying, you know what I mean? He's the Psycho Crusher, you could say. And when it comes to it, I just love all of their designs. I love, you know, just seeing them and not even playing them. I love playing them on occasion, but I definitely don't know how to use them. I'll definitely never practice with them. I'm just basically mashing buttons when I play with them. But hey, I don't care because I love them. They're great. They should return. And in my personal opinion, they would make a great addition. I mean, when we have all these teams filled with all these serious and all these all-powerful characters and secret agents and all this sort of stuff, sometimes you need America to come in and show everyone what's up with sports, like basketball and football. You know, I just find it so funny. I find it funny. I don't know about you guys, but I find it funny. And while this is the only time I'm really breaking my rules here, if any of them were to come back, for me it'd have to be Heavy D. I mean, Lucky maybe, because Lucky just is just sort of funny how he fights with his basketball. But either one of them would do. But when it comes to it, I definitely love the whole team to come back. For number 2, it's a character that showed up in 14, and originally I wasn't going to cover characters that appeared in 14, but if I'm going to be true to myself, then I really want Geese Howard to return. It's likely he will, and there's not much else to say other than he will probably come back, but I just love Geese Howard. He has always been my favorite villain in SNK. He's always been my favorite villain when it comes to fighting games, period. I just love Geese. Everything about him, from his fighting style to his name to the fact that a Rolex wristwatch in Fatal Fury 1. What's there not to love about Geese? He is just a weeaboo at heart, isn't he? But of course, since he already showed up in KOF 14, there's not much to say other than let's move on to the final character I want to talk about, and that is Jeff Bogard. So like I said, for the 3rd time this time around, verse dead equal everyone else dead alive. And I'd find it pretty messed up if that only applied to the villains. I think the possibility of bringing back Jeff Bogard would be interesting. In KOF 14, Tung Fu Ru reflects on his past students, and when we see Jeff, his portrait's a bit interesting, because that design has never once before seen. We've seen Jeff's designs in previous games. You know, he's even gotten a redesign. But that design featured in 14 is not one we've seen. Not only that, but he's facing away from the, you know, person from the screen. He's facing away from you, the player. Everyone else's faces are shown, except his. I find it interesting. I think, in my personal opinion, there is a high chance that Jeff Bogard could make a return to King of fighters. While he may be dead permanently in the Fatal Fury timeline, this is the one chance for him to make a comeback. And I've always wondered about Jeff, because here's the thing. When Jeff dies, I don't feel bad for Jeff, I feel bad for Terry. But I've always wanted a reason to care for Jeff Bogard. I've always wanted to learn more about the guy. And so I hope that in 15, he's brought back to life. But that's just my personal opinion. When it comes to it, SNK values their stories. And I definitely love to see how Terry and Andy would react if Jeff came back to life, for instance. I mean, just imagine the look upon their faces, seeing their, their dad. I mean, I know it's not their actual dad, but their dad, the person they've only known to be father, just back alive, and seeing him. The interactions Jeff could have with Geese potentially. I've said this before in my, what teams I like to see for KOF15, but there could be potential for Jeff to be in the same team with, well, Geese Howard and Shang, where they could be the three brothers of godly battle. The return of them. It'd definitely be a enemy of my enemy is my friend situation for that to ever happen, but still, I find it interesting. The possibilities with Jeff coming back to life is staggering in my opinion, and I would love to see him make a return to the series. I want a reason to care for Jeff Bogard. Maybe that's just me wanting, writing and good writing on my stories, but I'd love to see it. If anything, I just love to see the interactions between Jeff and other characters, but that's just me. With all that being said, thank you so much for watching. Please take care of yourselves, and as always, Rock Howard will probably make a return, I hope, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace. And subscribe! Peace.